I'm Greg Giuliano. I'm an executive coach, organizational change consultant, and author. I believe leaders have the power to shape the future and change people's lives. I also believe people who challenge the status quo and go beyond usual and ordinary are rare. They're willing to go to the edge and push farther, over and over again. When I find these ultra leaders, I love to talk with them. In each episode, I talk with ultra leaders to learn how they do what they do and how they keep growing as leaders. I promise you a full dose of ultra leadership from other ultra leaders just like you in every conversation. We're at the edge of another episode. Let's jump in. Welcome to another episode of Ultra Leadership. I'm excited today to welcome Lindsay Crawley-Herbert to the program. Lindsay is Chief People Officer at SCAN Health Plan, overseeing all aspects of HR for the nation's fourth largest not-for-profit Medicare Advantage plan, serving 300,000 members in 5 states. She's a passionate and strategic leader who drives organizational growth and culture through effective talent management, employee engagement, and HR integration. She is a certified professional human resource professional. She is a registered certified public accountant, and she has led the HR integration of multiple acquisitions while at Anthem. Currently, she and her team at SCAN work to create a positive and inclusive work environment that fosters collaboration, innovation, and performance. Her mission is to empower and support the people who make a difference in the lives of others. Welcome, Lindsay.
Thank you, Greg. Excited to be here with you today.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate your time. So before we came on the air, we were talking about that in ultra leadership is about going beyond usual and ordinary. Where's the edge and stepping past that in order to make great things happen. So I'd like to start there because your industry it's like always at another edge, and it's really at an edge now. And I love some of the stuff that you are doing at SCAN to help people see where that edge is, go beyond that edge, and step into a space of real engagement and real empowerment on behalf of all of your members. So let's start there. So what's the edge that you're seeing, and how are you helping your folks see it and step past it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the healthcare industry is under a lot of scrutiny, and there needs to be change. People are pretty frustrated with our industry. And as our CEO regularly says, we've normalized the abnormal. We've accepted so many things that in healthcare that in any other industry would not be acceptable. So at SCAN, we're really working to cultivate an environment that supports and encourages and empowers our team members to think outside the box, to drive solutions. We don't believe the industry is changing quick enough, and we want to be that catalyst to kind of step over that edge with our employees and drive change in the industry. There's so many edges that are being pushed now in terms of personalized medicine, health equity, innovative ways of thinking, and especially in the healthcare industry. And we are really trying to create an organization where employees come to push that edge and be known for pushing that edge, doing things differently. We call our team members actually rebels. So we've rebranded our employees to actually be rebels, which can seem unusual, but really what we're trying to do is we are trying to drive a different spirit, a different thinking across our organization where people feel like they are empowered to drive toward our mission, to make a difference, to step over that edge. We are rebels with a cause, and that cause is to keep seniors healthy and independent. SCAN actually stands for Senior Care Action Network, and you notice action is in that, and rebels take action. So we are really trying to create a high-performance culture with our rebels that is focused on that edge, and how do we make a difference for older adults?
I love it because it's a very member-centric and a people-centric, way of thinking about things. That the best way to take care of our members is to really unlock our talent, unlock people's creativity and their ability to solve challenges on behalf of your members, right? It sounds like you're moving. How do you empower all of your people, all your rebels, to make the best decision possible on behalf of your members, and moving those decisions as close as possible to the member? And so I'm curious, how have people responded to the call to being a rebel? Because that's really, you are a change agent. So how have they been responding to that? And what are you noticing?
Yeah, our employees have been very responsive. They have been taking the charge of that rebel title. I'm going to tell you a little story. We had a nurse practitioner as part of our Embrace organization, and we're going to call her patient Tracy. She had a really high complex surgery coming up, and it had been difficult to get her scheduled. And if anything had complicated this surgery from happening, they would have had to reschedule, and it would have been months later. And this was a really important and urgent surgery that this Tracy member needed. And 2 days before the surgery, we found out that Tracy had a UTI, which would have caused her to have to reschedule the surgery. And our nurse practitioner, Lindsay, went to this member's house and administered the antibiotics on a Sunday night. She was not on call. There was no reason that she would have had to do this. She had to drive from Norwalk to Northridge on a Sunday night, which, if you know LA, is a very significant drive. And she did that to keep this member able to have this surgery, which is, that is a rebel. That is going way above and beyond. And we, in order to encourage and recognize individuals like Lindsay, we celebrate that. So we have these all-team meetings, and we have what we call Make Your Mark Awards. And Lindsay was one of the recipients of our Make Your Mark Award, where she gets a cash money. She gets announcement in front of the entire organization to say, hey, this is what a rebel looks like. This is what we want, thinking outside the box, not just saying, oh, you can go to your doctor in the morning to get your antibiotic, which would have caused it to be pushed. No, she went on a Sunday and actually took care of this member. And it goes back to our roots. We were started by the 12 angry seniors that were not happy with healthcare, and they were the original rebels. And we have really focused on telling the stories throughout the years, but even more recently, of how our rebels are making a difference. And that storytelling, that tying to the why, and inciting people to not normalize the abnormal and really focus on how we can do things differently, is an exciting path that our employees have been on to help, keep our members healthy and independent.
That kind of empowerment and that sense that Lindsay had in that moment, she was empowered to make that decision and take that action because of her alignment with what's our mission, and really understanding that. And then, okay, what can I do right now to take care of this member? And being able to, and freed to make that decision and do that, is a powerful example of how you guys are empowering your rebels to live up to that name. So where I go to is that a team of rebels requires something different from the leader of the team. It's not a traditional manager in that kind of an organization. So how are you helping your people managers, your team leaders? How are you helping them what are the skills that you're wanting to develop in them? And how are you helping them to lead a team of rebels? Because some managers could be really threatened by that, that they're in charge of the team, quote unquote. And so it's a very different mindset and a different skill set if your team is made up of rebels. And so I'm curious of how you're helping your managers make this shift from a traditional manager to a rebel leader.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a few pieces that we have been focused on to help kind of do that shift. One, we launched a new ways of working, and it's the kind of new behaviors that we expect out of our leaders. And we've been very intentional about talking about what does it mean. What does it mean to have member obsession or courageous challenge? Those are a few of our ways of working. And we give a lot of examples. We're very transparent around what is expected, and it's exemplified from the top. So our CEO exemplifies transparency, exemplifies being a rebel within the industry. I mean, we sued CMS, which is our main source of income. I mean, that's how we get income, because we didn't believe that they were doing what is right for the members, and we won. That is pushing over the edge. That is thinking different. And so we're exemplifying those behaviors at the top and championing and celebrating them. And yes, you're right. It can be challenging for some leaders to get on board and feel like they might be losing some control. But the more that they see, and they see how much we're celebrating it, it becomes a little bit easier. The other interesting thing that we did is, so we went through a whole new rebranding this year. We launched a new rebrand, really trying to tie back to our roots, that rebel. But we also launched a voluntary exit program, which many companies do this. A lot of times it's around cost cutting, but we did it different. We said, hey, here's where we're going. We want to be rebels. We want to be pushing that edge. Here's our ways of working. We know we've been driving a lot of change. We want people who want to be on this journey, that this company makes sense for them. And this is something that they are committed to and are on board. And they want to be a rebel. And if you don't, no hard feelings. And it was offered to every single employee outside of our CEO, because the board obviously does that hiring and firing. But every other employee had the opportunity to leave the organization, all on good terms, with an enhanced severance, if this was just not the path and the journey they wanted to be on. If they were that manager that was uncomfortable with their employees having that authority to make decisions and think innovatively and to push that edge. And we had some people take us up. It was good. And it's gone over very smoothly, because it has re-energized our rebels in this whole path of how we are going to show up and how we're going to work together and how we are going to champion for our members. So it's different. And it was not a cost-cutting exercise. We backfilled 95% of the roles, and the other 5% were because managers said they wanted to do something else with those funds, or just didn't need that role anymore. So it was definitely not a cost-cutting exercise, which is very, very different. And I think helps keep and show our employees, like, we are committed to this and we want you to be committed, and we're all in it together now.
I love it, right? Because it comes down to engagement, right? So if you're not on board with where we're going, then you're going to disengage, and it's going to impact how you show up. So you wouldn't have had a Lindsay going out a Sunday night to make that drive to Northridge. Oh my gosh, I remember those days on the 405.
Yes.
So it really is a testament in believing in your own vision and your own mission and saying, here's where we're going, right? It's old Jim Collins, Good to Great. It's like, this is where the bus is going. And if you want to go there, hey, it's no hard feelings, but this is where we're going. So pull the cord and we'll help you off the bus. I'm curious. So we've talked about it in generalities about other folks making this shift. It sounds like this is how you are wired, you personally as a leader. What has been the easiest thing about this for you, and what is still challenging for you about leading in this way?
Yeah, I mean, one of the most challenging parts is change is hard. Even if our employees say, yes, I'm on board, I'm that rebel, it's easier to say that than to do it. And to really, it's great in theory, but then when someone wants to go and change or do something different in your specific area, people sometimes, get protective of their area. They're like, yes, our company can change, but I might not be as on board in my specific area. And so I think shepherding all of our employees through this change journey and changing the ways we're working, changing our branding, being rebels, is a humbling experience. You have to have a lot of empathy. You have to show up as a leader with empathy and understanding and patience to fully get everyone there. I'm not a patient person and I'm very comfortable with change. So that has been a very challenge. That's a natural challenge for me, because I grew up as a kid, my dad worked for Procter and Gamble. We moved every 2 to 3 years. I get antsy if I don't have change. And so for me, helping and shepherding and being kind of a spearhead to how our company is going through this evolution has been a really fun journey for me. I do think that showing up with empathy in all situations, as we're dealing with our members, as we're dealing with our employees, unique situations and life experiences have people leading with different perspectives. And so appreciating those different perspectives and creating that sense of belonging through that empathy and appreciation for different perspectives allows for the greatest growth within the organization. And so that's really been my focus. I'm a very transparent leader. So is our CEO. So in our whole leadership team, we're very transparent. We are communicative about where we're going, why. The why is also very important as you're driving change. So, this change has been very exciting and very thrilling. It is what I love to do, but I tend to love it more faster than others. And so I would say that has been my challenge is making sure I slow down enough to bring everybody along with me.
I love that you mentioned empathy because I think it's like the number one skill that leaders need, especially during times of change.
Absolutely.
Because you can announce the change, or that could be an email, but then every individual, that macro level change that you're looking for the organization requires people to change. And people change, and William Bridges talks about the difference between change and transition, right? So people go through a transition, and everybody does it differently, and it means a different speed. So some of us like to go really quickly. We're immediately living and operating as if it's 100% true, and we're fully on board, and we're in the new world, and it's awesome. And then you have people who, you offered them an off ramp that they were never going to go. And then there's a whole bunch of people who, they want to do it, but they don't know how, or they're lost in it. How does this impact me? What's the change? And so going back and finding those folks, Bridges calls that the neutral zone, right? They're kind of wandering in the fog a little bit, trying to understand what the change means for the organization, for the team, for them. Going and finding them and engaging them with empathy and curiosity to understand what their current experience is, so that you can drop some breadcrumbs and kind of take them by the hand and walk them to a deeper understanding of what's changing, why is it changing, so that they can adopt what they need to in terms of new knowledge, new skills, new whatever, and participate more fully in the change. So I love that you mentioned that. I don't have a question. I think I love that that empathy is your starting point for that.
Absolutely. I think it is one of the most critical skill sets a leader does need. For us, we're hitting the new ways of working in a lot of different manners. We're having we have micro learnings on going through change and what it means and how to lead through change, and then how to go through it yourself and how to show up with empathy for leaders and employees. But then we're also doing what these fun scan reels is what we call them, where people talk about others that have exemplified a way of working and that they love, or an example of what it means to them, what this changes, what does being a rebel mean to them. And so we're really trying to utilize our employees in all different areas of the business at all different levels to help exemplify and show hey, this is what it means to me, and this is what it means to me. And everybody's perspective on it matters. And I think it's important to show that there are a lot of different perspectives in the organization, and they do all matter, but that we're all still aligned to a core way of working together as a rebel.
Yeah. Let's say you've got a rebel, great individual contributor, and you think they'd be a great people leader, and you invite them to that and they say yes. What's the advice that you go to pretty consistently for a new people leader or early career, first time leading a team? What's the advice that you share with those folks?
Yeah, I really encourage new leaders to ask a lot of questions. I think one of the best ways to learn and to make sure you continue with like a growth mindset is showing up with curiosity. There's reasons things are done certain ways, right or wrong. But if you show up with curiosity and you ask questions, you can personally learn a lot. But you're also showing respect to the other person that you're like, okay, I appreciate and understand and am going to learn why you came to this conclusion. And then we together can challenge and think about how we're going to do it different or change that process. And so as a new leader, I think showing up, asking a lot of questions, and even someone right out of college, showing up and asking questions to learn, to better understand. And then you are honing a skill set that as you advance in your career, I use asking questions a lot of times to guide people to the answer that I think is where they need to go. Because a lot of times that is a great way to help people learn on their own. They don't feel forced into a certain path, but rather they feel involved in the ultimate solution. And all I did was ask them questions.
Yeah. It's fabulous advice because a lot of leaders, a lot of that find their way to us when they ask us to come and help them in their organization, they've fallen into the trap of being that expert problem solver and thinking that they need to know everything. And the reality is that you don't need to know everything. You need to know how to empathize and ask great questions to unlock people's talent and empower them to own their situation and find their own solutions. And that starts with that curiosity that you would advise younger people, younger leaders to embody and get better at. And that's something that leaders at every level need to always revisit. It's like, am I asking enough questions? Probably not. Probably not. I could be more curious and ask more questions rather than advocating, here's what I think. So that curiosity is really powerful and it builds trust within the team, I think, as well, because I'm showing up authentically. I don't know how to do that. I don't know what your experience is. It's really engaging the other person as a real person.
Yeah, no, absolutely. One of my favorite, if I have a really good leader, one of my favorite things to do with them is put them in an area or on a project that they actually don't know anything about. As long as you have the subject matter experts underneath them on the project, having a really good leader that shows up with empathy, that asks questions, that's curious, is going to unlock so much out of a team that in an area that they actually are not an expert in. And I've seen it done many times. And it's so rewarding for that leader when they've been able to unlock and they are like, oh wow, I really did add a lot of value, even though I'm not a subject matter expert. And then the ability for that team that was unlocked to be like, to feel so much reward in that they've learned something and grown in a way that they probably wouldn't have with their normal, just like leadership of somebody that's been there, done that.
Yeah. Making that shift from a traditional manager mindset to a coach mindset. That's how you really create value, by unlocking people's talent and their enthusiasm. And people are more engaged, they're more empowered, and they're more activated, right? The A of SCAN, right? How do you activate people? You don't tell them what to do. You help them explore their questions and find their own answers. And then they're not buying in on anything. They're owning it. They're moving forward. So it's an accelerant. Man, I love this. This is great stuff. I want to work at SCAN.
Yeah, well, we are hiring. So anybody that wants to come, please reach out. We want more rebels.
I love it. I love it. So you heard it, folks. If you want to work at a really cool place doing really good work with really good people, I think SCAN's the place. So I like to end conversations with individuals and with teams when I'm facilitating a team gathering. I like to end with an expression of gratitude because it's good for our brains to express gratitude and hear gratitude. So I'm really grateful that you were here with me today and shared your expertise and your experience with me. I know there's tons of nuggets in what you said today, and I know that it's going to be meaningful for a lot of our listeners. I want to give you the final word and just ask today, in your world, what are you grateful for?
Well, I am grateful for my family every day. They keep me grounded, personally, professionally. They inspire me to do and be my best self. They love me no matter what, even with all of my flaws, because we all have flaws and things that we need to work on. And then I'm also really grateful for our employees. They keep me inspired. It is a great culture and company that we have at SCAN. And I can truly say I'm excited every day to get up and work at SCAN.
Awesome. Lindsay, thank you so much for being here today. It's been enlightening and a great conversation. So I really appreciate you being here. And thank you, everyone, for listening. This has been another episode of Ultra Leadership. And please spread the word, let folks know about our podcast, and let's stay on the trail. Let's keep looking for the edge and pushing farther. And let's do that over and over again. And that's how we all get better. So until next time, we'll see you out on the trail. If you're enjoying Ultra Leadership, please take a minute and give us a review wherever you find your podcasts. And please stay in touch. Sign up for our Ultra Leadership newsletter at ultraleadership.com. Now, before you jump to your next meeting, I invite you to reflect on what you heard today. What stood out for you? What insight might you want to incorporate into your leadership practice? Until next time, remember, as a leader, you always have the power to shape the future and change lives. So go to the edge and push farther. Thanks for listening.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.